My name is Sarah, and I live with my husband, James. We first met during our university days, where a chance encounter at a campus event led to us spending more time together. Before long, we were inseparable, sharing both our joys and challenges as we transitioned from carefree students to working professionals. Our relationship grew stronger with time, and eventually, James proposed to me in the most heartfelt way. We were married a year later, and our bond, already strong, only deepened with our union. We have always been seen as a loving couple, both by our friends and family. We lived together peacefully, without any major conflicts. James and I believed in resolving any differences with patience and understanding, a philosophy that had served us well throughout our relationship. Our tranquil life, however, did not sit well with everyone, particularly not with James's sister Laura and her husband Tom. Laura and Tom had been married for 3 years before James and me. Laura was known for her obsession with appearances. Her wedding had been the talk of the town, not because of the grandeur, but because of the way she'd alienated many of her friends. Laura had openly declared that she would only invite women who she deemed less attractive than herself. This shocking statement left many of her friends stunned and hurt, leading to several broken friendships. Despite this, Laura carried on with her life, seemingly unaffected by the damage she had caused. Tom, her husband, was no better. He had a habit of making snide remarks and often added fuel to the fire whenever Laura behaved rudely. Their marriage, as far as anyone could tell, was held together by their shared disdain for others, rather than by love or mutual respect. While most people distanced themselves from the couple, James and I found it difficult to completely avoid them due to family obligations. One Saturday afternoon, while James and I were enjoying a quiet day at home, we were startled by the sound of the doorbell. To our surprise, it was Laura and Tom standing on our doorstep, uninvited and unannounced. Their unexpected visit threw us off balance. Laura, without waiting for an invitation, walked right into our home, her eyes scanning the place as if she were inspecting it. "This apartment is quite splendid," she remarked, her tone laced with sarcasm. "I guess even an apartment can be called a mansion if it has enough space." I was taken aback by her audacity. Laura proceeded to wander around our home, opening doors and cabinets as if she owned the place. James stood beside me, equally stunned, his mouth slightly agape. Tom, meanwhile, made himself comfortable by opening the fridge and helping himself to a beer, without so much as a word to us. "Where are the snacks?" Tom asked casually, as though he were in his own home. I couldn't believe the nerve of these two. In any typical household, opening doors and rummaging through the fridge without permission is considered incredibly rude. Yet here they were, behaving as if such basic courtesies didn't apply to them. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "May I ask what brings you here today, Laura?" I inquired, hoping to get some clarity on their unexpected visit. "Didn't you invite Mom and Dad over to this apartment recently?" Laura asked, ignoring my question. "It only makes sense that I, as your sister-in-law, would be welcome too, right?" I was bewildered by her reasoning. It was true that we had invited James's parents over a few days ago, but that was for a special occasion, not to show off our home. Laura's assumption that she was automatically invited just because we had hosted her parents was baffling. By this time, Laura had found some snacks in the kitchen cabinet and was munching away without asking. "Why haven't you offered us any tea yet?" she demanded between bites, her tone dripping with entitlement. With a heavy heart, I served tea to Laura and Tom, still trying to wrap my head around their behavior. The atmosphere in the room was tense, and I could sense James's growing discomfort. He had always been close to his sister, but her recent behavior was something neither of us could comprehend. As we sat down with our tea, Laura turned to me with an uncomfortable gaze laced with sarcasm. "I bet you served Mom and Dad some fancy tea and delicious sweets, didn't you? After all, you need to stay in Dad's good books, right?" Her accusation caught me off guard. James and I had never tried to ingratiate ourselves with his father. James worked hard at his father's company, earning his position through dedication and effort, not through flattery. The insinuation that we were trying to curry favor with his father was both baseless and insulting. James, sensing my discomfort, spoke up. "What are you getting at, Laura? We're not trying to get Dad to like us or anything," Laura retorted with a smirk. "You wouldn't be able to stay at the company if you didn't lick his boots." Right? James and I exchanged puzzled glances. True, James worked at his father's company, but his father was known for being fair and impartial, even to his own family. The idea that James's job depended on pleasing his father was absurd. Laura continued, "I'm the center of this family, and James came into the picture later, so James should be concerned about Dad's feelings and mine. If I get upset, I could just ask Dad to kick you out of the company." Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Tom, sitting beside her, smirked proudly, clearly enjoying the tension Laura was creating. I couldn't understand what Laura was aiming for, but her remarks were starting to cross a line. Before we could respond, Laura and Tom abruptly left, leaving behind a mess of scattered snacks and spilled tea. James and I were left to clean up, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. "What was she trying to say? That she'd have me fired?" James murmured as we cleaned up. "Does Laura really have a say in personal decisions at the company?" I asked, still confused. James shook his head. "No way. Dad's not especially soft on family members. If anything, he's pretty strict. Seeing how strict Dad is, I think Mom might have spoiled Laura too much when she was young." I nodded in agreement. Dad wouldn't give Laura special treatment, that's for sure. We tried to put the strange encounter behind us, but Laura's words lingered in my mind. What was she trying to accomplish by making such threats? A few weeks passed without incident, and James and I tried to focus on our own lives. We were in the middle of preparing to move to a new home, and most of our time was consumed by packing and organizing. The day of the move was fast approaching, and we were excited about starting this new chapter of our lives. One afternoon, I had just completed the paperwork for the move and was preparing to ship some boxes when I received a call from Laura. It was unusual for her to call me directly, and I hesitated before answering. I took a deep breath and picked up the phone. "Hello, Laura," I greeted her cautiously. "Oh, Sarah, I'm so glad you finally answered. I've been trying to reach you for a while now." Laura's voice was unusually cheerful, which immediately put me on edge. "Is everything okay?" I asked, sensing that something was off. "Everything's more than okay," she exclaimed. "Richard and I just had a delightful time on your bed." I froze. "What do you mean, Laura? What are you talking about?" "Oh, didn't I mention? I'm at your apartment right now. You and James seem to be away, so Richard and I decided to enjoy your luxurious space. We even got rid of all your stuff to make room for our things." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You did what? Why are you in our apartment? What do you mean by got rid of all our stuff?" Laura's voice took on a smug tone. "Well, this apartment is ours now. I've disliked you since forever, Sarah, and this is my revenge. I threw out everything that belonged to you and replaced it with my own things." My mind was racing. How could she do this? I felt a mixture of anger, shock, and confusion. "Laura, those were our belongings. You had no right to do that." Laura laughed, clearly enjoying my distress. "Oh, please, Sarah. I've been waiting for this moment. By the way, those photo albums of yours were creepy. I threw them out this morning." I felt a lump in my throat as I remembered the albums. They were filled with memories, not just of my time with James, but of my entire life. But then something clicked in my mind, and a strange sense of calm washed over me. "Actually, Laura," I began slowly, "those belongings you threw out weren't mine." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What do you mean?" Laura asked, her tone suddenly uncertain. "I moved out of that apartment a while ago. James and I got divorced, and I now live overseas." "What? That can't be true. You and James seemed so happy together." Laura's voice wavered, and I could tell she was struggling to process what I had just told her. "It's true," I replied calmly. "James and I separated at the request of his parents. They felt it was best for the family. As for those albums, they belonged to someone else. Someone else? Laura repeated, her confusion evident. Yes, someone who was very close to James, someone who was obsessed with him for a long time. She took those photos. That's why James wasn't looking at the camera in any of them. He was trying to avoid her. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Laura spoke again, her voice shaky. Was that woman Rachel? Yes, I confirmed. Rachel was a childhood friend of James, and she believed that they were meant to be together. She interfered in our marriage multiple times. Even after James and I got married, she wouldn't leave us alone. Laura was silent again, and I could sense her shock. I continued. Rachel's father is the head of a major corporation that James's father respects a lot. Rachel used that influence to pressure James's family into separating us. Laura gasped. I had no idea. Yes, and after the divorce, Rachel moved into that apartment with James. So, the things you threw out belonged to her. Realization dawned on Laura, and I could almost see the color draining from her face through the phone. Oh no! Rachel is gonna kill me! What am I gonna do? I could hear the panic in her voice. Laura, you need to tell Rachel the truth. Maybe she'll understand. I can't do that, Laura cried. She's going to ruin me. I need to hide. Maybe I can run away. It's too late for that, Laura, I said quietly. Rachel is already on her way to the apartment. The line went dead as Laura hung up abruptly. I sat there for a moment, trying to process everything that had just happened. I knew that Rachel, with her influence and connections, would not take kindly to what Laura had done. But there was nothing more I could do. As expected, Rachel did not let Laura and Tom's actions go unpunished. Within hours of discovering the state of her apartment, Rachel had mobilized her father's resources to track them down. Laura and Tom were quickly found and brought to face the consequences of their actions. Rachel, in her fury, forced Laura and Tom into a grueling labor contract with one of her father's companies. They were to work off the debt they had incurred by damaging her property and reputation. The work was hard and unforgiving, a far cry from the comfortable life they had been used to. James, meanwhile, had moved on from the whole situation. After our divorce, he decided to focus on his career and personal growth. He stayed in contact with Rachel, but their relationship remained strictly professional. As for me, I continued to build my new life overseas, far from the drama that had unfolded back home. The incident with Laura and Tom served as a harsh lesson for both of them. Their arrogance and sense of entitlement had led them to believe they could do as they pleased without facing any consequences. But Rachel's swift and decisive actions proved otherwise. As time went on, I heard less and less about Laura and Tom. They faded into the background, their once grandiose personalities subdued by the reality of their situation. James and I occasionally exchanged emails, and he assured me that he was doing well. He had no regrets about the decisions we had made, and neither did I. Looking back, I realized that the events that transpired were a turning point for all of us. Laura and Tom's actions, fueled by jealousy and spite, ultimately led to their downfall. James and I, on the other hand, emerged stronger and wiser from the experience. We learned that sometimes the best way to deal with toxic people is to simply walk away and let them face the consequences of their own actions. Life overseas has been good to me. I've found peace and fulfillment in my new surroundings, and I'm grateful for the fresh start. While the memories of the past still linger, they no longer have a hold over me. I've moved on, and I'm ready for whatever the future holds. As for Laura and Tom, I can only hope that they've learned from their mistakes and that they find a way to rebuild their lives. But whatever happens, I know that I've made the right choices for myself, and that's all that matters.